Sup guys, and welcome back to Doctor Who Discussions. My name is Charlie.
And my name is Russell.
And today we are discussing The Ghost Monument.
0 out of 10, no salad guy.
Screw you, 11 out of 10 custard cream button.
Okay, let's compromise. 5 out of 10.
6 out of 10?
Yeah, sure. It was okay.
I liked this episode more than you.
Yeah, I feel like it's an episode that I'm not really going to think back on that much in a couple months' time.
It could easily have been a two-parter and possibly should have been a two-parter.
Yeah, I feel like they had a setup going on which felt a little bit like The Chase but on a small scale. Not a Bradley Walsh joke intended there.
Well, I mean, it's appropriate anyway.
But yeah. But yeah, the way they set up this race, it sounded much more high scale and exciting than it actually was. Like, the bits we got were pretty cool, but...
I felt if it was a two-parter, they could have done 2 stages of the race.
Mm.
But it wasn't a two-parter, so... Because we're not getting any two-parters this season.
Yeah, and we could have explored a few more of these weapons and all these creatures that were trying to get them. Like, we spent, like, the second act... with the sniper bots, and then in the third act it's the remnant / cloth monsters.
I mean, I get the feeling that some of these weapons are going to come back because, given what this episode said, I get the impression the Stenza are going to come back this season.
Yeah, it's weird. They said they weren't going to do an arc this season, but here they are setting up not only the Stenza as a recurring villain, but also this timeless child, which I'm not really going to comment on because after the hybrid stuff, I'm just tired.
Some people are saying it's a younger version of the Doctor. Some people are saying it's Susan. Some people are saying it's the Master. Personally, I hope it's the name of a really terrible emo band the Doctor was part of back in their Academy days.
Oh, that would be beautiful.
It would.
And it's even better because the Master canonically... They actually did have a band canonically.
They did?
And the Master played the drums.
Oh, that was...
I'm not joking. Look it up. It's a thing.
Wait, what are you talking about? Because I'm thinking about that comic story where the 5 Masters came together and formed a band.
This was a genuine thing.
I need to see this.
I think this was before New Who.
Wow.
Go on TARDIS wiki later. Just look up the Master and just search for drums.
I will.
That's probably where Russell got his idea for it.
Would not be surprised.
But yeah, this is canon.
In any case, if it does turn out that the Timeless Child was just a terrible emo band that the Doctor was part of, I demand an album.
Absolutely. I mean, it doesn't seem like we're getting the Series 10 soundtrack for a little while, so it might as well get something.
I mean, the horror of glam rock was about, this glam rock duo, and we got a glam rock version of the Doctor Who theme tune at the end of it. That was great. So,
also Wolf was in it.
Also, Bernard Cribbins was in it as a horribly abusive tour manager who got away scot-free. That was weird.
Yeah.
And we haven't actually talked about the Ghost Monument yet.
Yeah. Actually, I will just start while we're talking about the theme music. The opening titles are amazing.
So cool.
I really wish they could have snuck them into Woman Who Fell to Earth, because that was something that bugged me the whole time. Because I'm a huge nerd for the theme song.
Same. I think we all are.
Because I'm gonna do another soapbox bit about the theme, because one thing that the Moffat era didn't do very well was the closing titles. Like, they just had a really cut down version of the theme where it was just like the opening bass line and then the final end.
Yeah.
Usually when the titles come up, like opening or closing, it's kind of a spectacle. Like, you're treated to this unworldly music and all these trippy images, and Moffat's era would just kind of fart it out and say, bye, see you next week. I think these new titles are sort of going in the right direction. Like, visually they're really good. Like, I was just saying to you, like, apparently John Smith, the guy who made like the Wholock video, and he also did a really good fan trailer for Day of the Doctor, using like assets from previous episodes.
If I can be bothered, I'll fact check this and put whether it's true or not in
I mean,
in this post, in editing.
Yeah, I mean, it is still just a rumor. I don't know if it's actually confirmed. But also, the theme song as well is really like I'm fed up of hearing like everyone remixing the Derbyshire theme, but it's a really good remix, like with the drums as well.
I love this theme. It's great.
And I obviously like whenever they use the Derbyshire theme, it's always to drum up nostalgia. Like, yeah, this is Doctor Who, but I feel like it also feels unique enough to be its own thing for Jodie's Doctor.
The drums.
The drums.
The drums.
She's still thinking about the Master and how that went down.
Who wasn't thinking about the Master?
It's been a long week for the Doctor, hasn't it?
It's been a very long week.
Like he took his best friend onto a space station to try and test his old enemy into being good. Best friend got killed, converted into a Cyberman, got blown up, got electrocuted, got lasered, had a sex change, met their older self, who was apparently sexist for some reason, fell out of the TARDIS, landed in Sheffield of all places. Yeah, it's been a long week.
It's been a very, very strange week. And this is saying something considering some of the weeks the Doctor has had.
Yeah. My only nitpick with the theme, and this is more to do with The Woman Who Fell to Earth, to be fair, but again, this is me being a massive nerd for the theme and nobody else cares, but like they played like the second half of the melody twice in a row, like the dun 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 dun.
Yeah.
You don't do that twice.
No.
But otherwise, yeah, it's a really good theme.
It's great.
And
you're going to hate me for saying this. Because of busyness and how we've had colds. As we're recording this, Arachnids in the UK has aired.
Yeah.
And the music so far this season has been fantastic.
Seigen Akinola is really good. Like he's got like his own sort of style going on.
Yeah, like I loved Murray Gold, but we needed something new, and Seigen Akinola has just absolutely knocked it out of the park so far.
Yeah, like he's sort of got like an orchestra synth vibe.
Great, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Also, one other thing I will say about the film: we got gypped out of the middle eight for the rest of the series. Why?
Yeah, it's a shame. Who doesn't love the middle eight?
So Moffat apparently, and so does Chibnall. Why do you hate it? Why do you hate it, guys? But Seigen, sorry.
See, like, what is it with us? He's left. It's a new showrunner, and yet we're still complaining about how Moffat ruins everything.
I gotta let it go.
No, you'll never let it go.
Seigen's really good though.
He's great.
The actual episode.
Eventually.
After 3 hours. The cold opener was pretty good.
It was.
Like, we've gone from the cliffhanger ending.
And suddenly, we're on spaceships and we're not sure if the other's alive and we're crashing and everything's exploding and feels very...
the planet's been moved across space.
It feels very chaotic. It feels incredibly... what's going on? Which is good when you've got a cold open to follow up from this cliffhanger.
Yeah. I mean, again, I feel like that's why... Like, while it's a really good cold open, it does sort of take up the first third of the episode. Like, by the time we get to the premise of, we're doing the space race, we're 20 minutes into this 50-minute episode.
Kind of. I don't think it was quite 20 minutes, but...
I remember sort of checking the clock when I first watched it. It was like, we've been into this now. But...
This is why possibly we could have done with more time. Like, this could have been a two-parter. The premise itself is really good, and we kind of needed more time with it.
Yeah, and maybe we could have gotten to know Angstrom and Epso a bit better. I've watched this episode about 5 times, and I've only just remembered their names. I
mean, I liked Angstrom enough. Epso could have done with a bit more development.
Yeah, Epso
He was kind of an
biology
throughout the entire episode.
Can you get away with that on your sensors, or?
I wasn't thinking. I'll probably censor it.
Oh, kidneys! Dingo's kidneys!
Okay, now we're bringing other media into this.
What, Hitchhikers is part of the Doctor Who canon?
Well, I know, but...
Zaphod and Arthur are trapped in Sharda.
In any case, episode was kind of a possibly censored word throughout the episode, and then at the end it's just kind of, actually, we're just going to be friends with you.
Yeah, like I felt like they could have developed him a bit more. Like they set up this whole thing about how he doesn't need anybody.
And his backstory of what his mother did is pretty messed up. But
Yeah.
I feel it's kind of the Doctor says no, she was wrong. We're better together, and that was all the development he needed.
It's kind of like a New Earth, where like we've got this opportunity for a nuanced debate about testing medicine on living beings, and the Doctor's like, nope, we're gonna do it my way, and you don't get a debate in this.
Yeah, that I got more because it was much
But,
more
yeah.
cruel in that case. But in this case, it's just kind of
It's just
the Doctor tells him no, your entire worldview is wrong, and he's just like, oh, okay, fine,
Yeah.
I'll change my entire worldview then.
I mean, he's still a jerk throughout the rest of the episode, but by the end, he's just kind of come a long way somehow.
I suppose it works.
Yeah,
I mean, it could have done with more, but yeah, it should have been more, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like the backstory was a bit too. Well, it does. I know some people have said like it does sound a bit ridiculous, but I mean, I've heard worse stories about parenting. I mean, we have the Jeremy Kyle show here for one thing, and I also live in an area with quite a few chavs.
I don't watch the Jeremy Kyle show, and I don't go outside, so I don't have the same experience. But I'll trust your superior knowledge.
People who watch the Jeremy Kyle show don't go outside, so you're the literal.
I am neither.
But yeah, I felt like it kind of broke the science fiction veil for me. Like we've got Angstrom, who's got like this very sort of very basic sci-fi backstory. It's like my planet's being decimated, and I'm off to find a way of saving them. Whereas Epso's got this very sort of real backstory. Like it's not to do with anything to do with the culture. It's just his mum was kind of awful.
I feel like it works because we've got we've got the sympathetic one with the crazy sci-fi backstory, and then we've got the less sympathetic one with the actual sympathetic backstory. It kind of flips it on its head, and also we needed it to humanize him to make us more likely to accept any kind of redemption, rather than just say no, this guy needs to die.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad.
I suppose you have a point there.
And this is also about the only Doctor Who episode in the 50-year history of the show where nobody dies.
You do realise we're 2 episodes without Moffat already.
Yeah.
And
I mean, people died in those, just nobody important.
I mean, I still can't even remember the red shirts who died. Send me a list. There must be some of them.
Anyway,
the remnants were a bit funny.
It's a bit silly.
Like, I remember I was saying to you, like, I remember seeing in the trailers, like, they had that shot of them in the marsh swamp or the gas swamps or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And they were sort of coming to attack. Like, I thought it was some kind of ethereal, dark magic sort of monster.
Which would have been cool, but this works just fine, I guess.
Yeah. Like, I do like, the sort of psychic trying to scare them.
Yeah. On the note of that and the weapons stuff, one gripe I had, the exposition that the scientists apparently wrote on the floor that literally started with the sentence, "We are scientists. We are being forced to build weapons.
We are scientists. We are people.
We are forced to build weapons." It just... this is a weird thing to say for Doctor Who, but it didn't feel like this is something somebody would write in cave paintings on the wall.
I mean, I just did 10 minutes on the theme song, so this is less weird.
I feel like that expositional dump would have worked better if it was a recording like what... The example I used was the recording in the movie Serenity, which I'm sure most of you will have seen because it's a huge nerd... It's a huge...
And if you've not seen it, go watch Firefly and Serenity.
It's a big staple in nerd and sci-fi culture, but in case you haven't, it's basically somebody makes a recording about all the horrible things they were forced to do.
These are just a few of the images we've recorded. And you can see, it isn't what we thought. There's been no war here. And no terraforming event. The environment is stable. It's the Pax. The G23 Paxilon hydrochloride that we added to the air processors. It was supposed to calm the population, weed out aggression. Well, it works.
I mean, it's kind of a trope within sci-fi itself. Like,
yeah.
That rather than doing anything else, they make a recording.
Yeah, I just feel like a recording would have worked better because the dialogue did not feel like something somebody would write down.
And I feel like there's no reason for them to write it down on the floor, especially when they're in a like if they were anywhere else in a tunnel maybe, but when they're inside this laboratory, where where they could record this message real quick.
Now that we've got our gripes out of the way,
Excuse me.
sorry for the coughing, still got slight colds. Now that we've got the gripes out of the way, that ending scene.
Oh.
Ah!
I'll tell you what, every time Jodie saw the TARDIS in this, like
Her
at the beginning
face
and at the end,
lit up.
like you could see she was about to cry. Like you could see she was just gonna burst into tears.
She's the best.
She was really good in this. You really like the chewing out she gives Epso.
That's great.
Why don't you go fix your wound, have one of your heroic naps, and let's go sort this out, or whatever it was.
And we'll wake you up when we go, if you're lucky. Like, I've probably said this before, and I've said this a lot to you outside of these recordings, but she really is reminding me of 8 quite a lot. She's really happy and really, like, she loves what she's doing, but if something annoys her, she will not be subtle about it. She's great. I love her. She's brilliant.
She feels to me like a combination of like the younger Doctors. Like you've got 8, you got a bit of 10, you got a bit of 11.
Like,
but 10 and 8 seem to be the predominant ones.
The 13th Doctor is a fantastic character. Jodie Whittaker is a fantastic actress, and I'm so enjoying this Doctor. She's like my favorite Doctors. Very quickly make an impression on me. She's very quickly climbing the ranks of my preferred Doctors.
And pretty much all of the cast was great. Like even Art Malik, for what limited role he gets, he's really good at playing the sort of
the horrible person
who
just doesn't care.
Who really doesn't care. Like I kind of hope he comes back because he's just like a really good foil to the Doc. Like I just love that bit. It's like thank you for showing it. Oh, I just wish there was something more I could do. I don't think you mean that.
No,
nah, you're
I
right. Don't. It's like like the look kind of reminds me of Morgus from Caves of Androzani, but he just really does not care.
He's great. He was great fun.
Yeah. Graham's been consistently good.
Graham's just.
I mean, it's Bradley Walsh, isn't it?
Graham's just fun to watch.
Yeah.
Ryan's been great. Again in this episode, Yaz didn't have a lot to do, but don't get me. Don't worry. That will be solved in a couple episodes. That will be solved.
Even in the next episode, I feel like she had a bit more to do.
Yeah, in the next couple of episodes, Yaz gets more screen time. In the meantime, this was more
more of an ensemble episode.
This was the Doctor's episode more than anything else, I felt.
See, I felt it was sort of everyone but Yaz.
I mean, Graham and Ryan got plenty to do, but it was mostly about the Doctor, I found.
Yeah, and they did sort of have like a few scenes of her sort of mentoring the group.
Yeah, like the scene where Ryan's going to climb up that ladder and the Doctor just says, "You're amazing. You've been doing really well. You're great."
Gives him the encouragement he needs with his dyspraxia.
Yeah, it's great, and I really like the fact that they haven't just
forgotten about it.
Yeah, and like with Grace, and they mentioned Grace again.
I think she's been mentioned every episode now.
Yeah, like we may be talking about like these things happening again because we've seen more episodes and we're only just recording this. So sorry if we're being confusing. But like they brought up Grace and they brought up Ryan's dyspraxia, and they've established these things, and they're not just having them turn up once and then forgetting them.
Yeah.
They are keeping them going.
And they're not acting like he's a burden on it. Like he's really insecure about it. But everyone's just sort of patiently waiting for him. Like they know he's struggling, and
they're waiting for him, and they're great. Yeah. They're helping him through. It's great. I
help
love
our
this
boy.
Like these four have so quickly become a family.
Yeah.
And I love the found family trope just because it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. And this is really going for it, and I love it.
The only thing that they're missing is a raccoon and a talking tree.
Which, I mean, the Doctor is a plant hugger, so
yeah.
Could count as both.
Oh yeah, the bit with Ryan and the sniper bots.
Yes.
So like, I'm honestly surprised they haven't had a scene like that in Doctor Who before, where he just grabs the gun and goes out running.
Makes everything worse.
Call of Duty.
Ryan, my boy, I love you, but stop making everything worse.
Where's the reload? Where's the reload?
You've got to love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I appreciate that he's trying, but like, no.
And it's
Stop.
a good way of sort of showing like the brain versus brawn
Yeah, like
mentality of the
Ryan's
Doctor.
instant response is, let's just kill everything and leave. Whereas the Doctor's like, yeah, no, that's not going to work. If you just take a step back and be clever for a moment, boom, just shuts down all the robots.
It's like
haha.
it's like she like the really simple answer is like you had the right idea with the robot, but you picked up the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Like, instead of going for the gun, there's an EMP pulse that will disable all the robots for a little while and give us time to escape.
Yeah, just take a step back and just think your way out of problems rather than instantly going for the violence.
Yeah.
And this is a very, very much, the attitude that the Doctor's always had, but it's great to see it in action and her teaching this to her companions, her being a mentor, especially to the younger ones.
Yeah, and I think also, like this new series does feel like a really good jumping on point for again the kids. I feel like this one it's a really good show for the kids to watch as opposed to constant fan service. And I love me some fan service, but it gets a bit tiresome getting to the Christmas special and having to explain like 10 years of lore to my mum, who dips in and out occasionally, who, by the way, has been watching the series with me this year because she's been enjoying it just as much.
Yeah, like
again, people are talking about this show again.
Yeah, the show up until now, especially in the later years, has been too reliant, and this is our problem with Moffat's story arcs. We're still on about him. Like, it's been too reliant on its own internal lore and its own internal continuity.
Yeah.
Whereas this, it feels fresh. You can jump into this episode and like, this is just a thing that's happening. It's great. I love it.
Yeah. It's just a great way to sort of restart the series fresh.
Yeah. And now that we've talked mostly about the plot and everything like that, the new TARDIS design, I don't like the central column because I feel it looks too different to other central columns that have always looked very similar. But other than that, I love it.
Yeah, it sounds like a really weird thing to say about the TARDIS. Cause,
I am definitely nitpicking.
Like I know what you mean, but when you say it out loud, it initially sounds like a really weird thing to complain about with the TARDIS because it's always being redesigned. But the central column, like you explained it to me, like every previous model has
it's had slight differences, but it's always been the glass column with the up and down bit inside. Whereas this, it's completely different. It fits with
one big chunk of crystal.
It fits with the aesthetic of the rest of the TARDIS, but it doesn't fit with the previous history. But you know what? It's a minor nitpick, and I really like the TARDIS. Besides, as we said, custard cream button.
Yeah.
That's just cool.
Hey, Doctor, where did you get that custard cream?
Custard cream button?
But they didn't install a custard cream button.
Then where did I get this custard cream?
I remember like somebody I remember seeing like a Tumblr post or something where somebody said like when the Doctor gets they used a P word which I can't say on the review, which can either mean angry or drunk.
Yeah.
And so like whenever the Doctor gets peed, they just keep yanking the lever. And to this day, I still don't know whether they meant when the Doctor gets drunk or when the Doctor's really angry, because I can really believe like getting really angry and just yanking the custard cream lever. That's a mood.
Yeah. And I can imagine the TARDIS filling up the entire console room with custard creams. Like, either because she's just as drunk as the Doctor, or because the Doctor's like, yes, you're angry? Oh no, I must give you something to calm you down. Have a bunch of custard creams, that will make you feel better.
But I like the new TARDIS design ish. I don't know. I'm still sort of undecided, if I'm honest. I certainly don't dislike it, but I don't know if I'd rank it in like my favourites.
Yeah, I like the crystal aesthetic. I just feel that it's a bit.
I like all the different elements that they've got going on. Like I like the crystals. I like the blue lights. I like the sort of clockwork octagonal steel roundels. But putting them all together, I'm not sure quite works as well.
If there's any other criticism I have, it's that the central bit with the crystal columns and the crystal arches, it's too small. That bit feels cramped, and there's too much space between the octagonal steel roundels and the crystal arches.
There's a lot of empty space.
Yeah, they should have expanded that out a bit more and had less empty space between them and more space around the console.
It's like we've had bigger TARDISes, like we've had with the Eighth Doctor's TARDIS. You know, it's huge.
Yeah.
But it's full of bookcases and a chair and a record player. and all this sort of stuff. Like the 11th Doctor's first TARDIS, like nobody really uses the downstairs bit, but it's got a few things in there like a coat hanger and whatnot, and the scanner.
Yeah, I don't mind a smaller TARDIS. I just feel that they could have utilised the space a bit better. But still, I like it.
I mean, yeah, it's a nice change.
And I just the Doctor's reaction to it. She's so glad to see the TARDIS. It makes me feel warm and fuzzy.
Like honestly, like this is my Jodie moment of the week. Just like that entire 5 minutes between the TARDIS turning up, and I kind of like how she sort of gives up hope for a moment.
Yeah.
Like I've heard some people call it a bit undoctorly because the Doctor never does give up, but it just makes it more heartwarming.
It does
when the TARDIS does turn up, and the fact that the companions do sort of joke around, I was like, come on, we can fine, we can sort this out.
We can keep going.
And I think because the best Doctors often end up being that way because of their companions. I mean, just look at 12.
Yeah.
Like the way, like his development was solely on the fact that he basically Clara rubbed off on him. Like he just wanted to keep her safe and happy.
Yeah. And then Bill and Nardole continued the cycle. It was great, and I am really loving this TARDIS team.
Yeah, it's a really good family dynamic.
And they're all a great influence on each other.
Yeah, they it does feel like one big unit, and I think
like we've talked about how we like Doctor Who stories being dark before because they can tell dark, interesting, and really creepy stories, and I do appreciate that. But one thing I've really found about this series, and this is slightly going into Rosa and Arachnids in the UK as well, like even when we're getting the dark and serious and the scary stuff, watching this series, it's nice. It feels nice and fun to watch because these characters are so nice and fun, and it's enjoyable watching them. What I've always said about dark stories is that it can never be too dark. If it gets mired in gloom, it's boring. What you can have a really dark story, but you've got to have likable, enjoyable characters who have a good dynamic with each other. And that's what really makes the stories good. You take these nice, light-hearted characters, and only then can you make really dark stories work. This is why I don't like these big, popular, super dark shows like The Walking Dead or Game of Thrones, because the world is dark and the world is serious, and while the characters may tell jokes, they're also super dark and serious, and constantly at each other's throats, and it feels like there's no joy. It feels like there's no hope. It feels like everybody's just being a horrible person, and it's boring. It's grim, it's gloomy, and it's boring. Whereas this show, you can have the darkest story, and we'll get to some super dark stuff next week. But it's still really nice to watch because these characters are enjoyable to watch because they're not mean to each other. They're not unpleasant to each other. It's just so lovely.
Yeah. And again, we've still got sort of a frosty relationship between Ryan and Graham in this episode.
But they're working on that, and they're developing that.
And thus far, as of having just seen episode 4, it's developing this relationship.
Yeah. You can have negative character dynamics. You can have characters, I wouldn't necessarily say at each other's throats, but you can have characters who don't necessarily get on as well as you'd like, or don't get on at all. But you've got to have, the characters don't always have to be sunshine and rainbows and cracking constant jokes all the time. But if everything is mired in so much darkness and gloom, then it gets boring. Whereas this series so far has been really good at avoiding that.
Yeah, I will say, on the family aspect, I just remember, I felt like this could have been used in this episode, but I assume it was just made for the trailers. But it's that speech Jodie makes in one of the trailers where this is a whole new thing for me. I don't really know what I'm doing or who I am yet, but I need to ask you guys a question. Will you be my new best friends? And that, it's just sweet.
Yeah, this episode had the potential to be, incredibly depressing. I mean, they're on a planet where everything died,
It's called Desolation.
where the atmosphere and the water is trying to kill you, and you've got three, episode-specific characters. One who is an absolute horrible person who is trying to persuade people to enter this race where they will inevitably die, and is just completely uncaring and does not give any kind of a monkeys about anybody but himself.
Nice save.
You've got another character who similarly doesn't care about himself because he had a traumatic childhood, and yet tries to justify that to himself. And you have another character whose entire world, whose family, who's is being destroyed, is being cleansed. Her wife was killed. Her family is being killed, and she's desperately trying to find any kind of way to save them.
But at no point in this episode does it feel gloomy or crawling in my skin.
It's a fun romp.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that you have to make light of dark backstories. They didn't make light of the fact that the fact that Angstrom had a really dark backstory, but they didn't use that to excuse everybody being broody and horrible to each other. They used that to build sympathy, while still making you like the character, because the character is fun to be around.
Yeah, like while I do maintain this episode is just kind of okay, and I'll probably forget about it, but for what it needs to be, it's good. As a follow up to The Woman Who Fell to Earth and a tone setter for the rest of the series, we're not going to have like an excessively dark season, mired in doom and gloom and story arcs about the universe ending. We're just going to have fun.
Yeah, this episode, I almost feel like it's not as good as the sum of its parts. It's got really interesting characters. It's got a really great dynamic, a really great premise, but it needed more time to develop all of those.
Ironically, my same opinion about the TARDIS.
Still, having just gone on a massive rant about everything we love about the episode and then ending it with, it's just a shame they didn't do more with it.
Yeah.
I liked this episode more than you, I think.
Yeah, I mean, no, I didn't dislike it or anything, but it's, like I say, it's what it needs to be.
Yeah.
And it didn't need to be, it didn't need to be like this big world-ending story. It didn't need to be a political thriller.
Well, I mean, it did kind of have a world ending in it, or a world that's already ended, but it's part of the backstory, and it worked.
Yeah, it's Doctor Who,
and it's a very,
and that's more than I can say for a lot of stories over the last few years.
Yeah, it's very Doctor Who. It's fun to watch. It's not the deepest, it's not the most involving, it's not going to blow your mind, but it's just really nice to watch. And I've kind of missed that.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people have.
I mean, we got that sometimes during Capaldi's last season.
Yeah.
But
this is a brand new, fresh start.
This is as you said, this is a fresh start, and the first 2 episodes, it's been good. It's been a good start. And
now we're going to kickstart even further into the stratosphere.
And we are going to get kicked in the proverbial genitals next week when we talk about Rosa.
Oh, this is going to get real really quickly.
Oh, yeah, it is. We will see you next week for emotional devastation.
Take care.